Yes, I'm afraid it's true, and I'm really sorry. After 13 years of making wheeler dealers, I'm now going to be leaving this.
No one saw it coming. One day Edd China was calmly guiding viewers through a suspension rebuild. The next, he was gone, banished from wheeler dealers without warning. Fans were blindsided. Edd wasn't just a co-host. He was the soul of the show, calm, brilliant, and quietly charismatic. He brought mechanical mastery into millions of homes. His departure didn't just feel like a casting change. It felt like a betrayal. Why would someone walk away from a wildly successful, beloved show at its peak? What was so bad behind the scenes that Edd would give it all up? To understand that, you have to go back to when this unlikely duo first took the automotive world by storm. Two men, one garage, a revolution begins. It started with a simple concept: restore classic cars, walk viewers through the process, and make it entertaining. But what Mike Brewer and Edd China unknowingly created was a genre-defining phenomenon that would change car shows forever. Mike, already an experienced presenter with deep car industry roots, had the energy and hustle to find undervalued gems. He was the negotiator, the deal closer, the guy who could sweet-talk a price down and make it sound fun. Edd, by contrast, was an enigma, calm, reserved, and towering at 6 feet 7 inches, with a mind that worked like a blueprint. Where Mike brought flair, Edd brought finesse. Together, they were a perfect mismatch. The show was methodical and real. Audiences didn't just see transformations, they learned them. The camera didn't cut away when things got dirty or complicated. Edd explained everything from welding repairs to turbocharger diagnostics in a way that was both educational and oddly soothing. His workshop was like a classroom for anyone who ever dreamed of restoring a car in their own garage. It wasn't just TV. It was a masterclass. For over a decade, the formula didn't just work, it thrived. Fans across the globe felt connected not just to the cars but to the unique balance between the hosts. It felt honest, familiar, like you were watching two old friends argue over a carburetor while making magic. But even as the show hit new highs and became a cult hit, quiet tensions started to rumble beneath the surface. Whispers of friction, of decisions being made behind closed doors. Because as we all know, success comes with a price, and their bill was coming due. What happened next would shake the show to its core. The bigger the show got, the tighter the chains became. The move to America in 2013 wasn't just about cars, it was about expansion. New cars, new culture, and most importantly, a new market. The US loved car content, and wheeler dealers had already proven it could compete on an international stage. This was their chance to level up, to become more than just a UK favorite. It was time to become a global brand. But with that leap came the attention of major networks, and with them, the inevitable changes. The production budget grew. The sets got shinier. And the stakes got higher. But so did the pressure. More people got involved. More meetings. More executives. What was once a tight-knit garage operation began to feel like a corporate boardroom. Suddenly, this modest UK show became a machine that had to produce, deliver, and entertain on a rigid schedule. Authenticity started to take a back seat. The longer repair scenes, the very thing that made the show stand out, started getting trimmed. Edd's deep dives into diagnostics, problem-solving, and clever engineering hacks were shortened or edited out entirely to make room for ad breaks and punchier pacing. The episodes became more about Mike's flashy deals and less about Edd's quiet brilliance. Fans noticed. Online forums buzzed. Comment sections filled up. They began to ask, where's the detail? Where's the how? What happened to the learning? To many in the production world, it just seemed like a bit of streamlining, standard procedure for American TV formatting. But to Edd China, it was a philosophical shift, a slow but undeniable dismantling of the core values that made wheeler dealers more than just another car show. It wasn't just about fixing up vehicles. It was about respecting the process and the audience's intelligence. And when the studio tried to push even further, cutting more workshop time, suggesting outsourced labor, and reducing Ed's role to quick sound bites. He knew the line had been crossed. Edd had a decision to make. One that wasn't just about a job, but about identity, integrity, and everything he believed in as a creator. What he chose next would shock fans, upend the show's future, and spark a storm of controversy no one saw coming. Edd China breaks his silence, and everything changes. The announcement wasn't made on the show. It didn't come from the network. It came from Edd himself, on his personal YouTube channel. Sitting in front of a camera, speaking directly to the fans. No flashy production. No edits. Just Edd, a blank background, and the truth. His tone was calm, measured, but every word carried weight. Edd revealed that the network, Velocity, soon to be rebranded as Motor Trend, had plans to further reduce the mechanical segments. They wanted to modernize the show, cut down on the long repair scenes, focus more on entertainment, and crank out episodes faster. To the executives, it made perfect sense. Less garage time meant more airtime for flashy deals and audience-friendly drama. But to Edd, it was a betrayal. He explained that these changes would compromise the show's core identity. The technical depth would vanish, and with it, the educational value that had inspired countless aspiring mechanics around the world. Staying would mean pretending. Faking expertise. Watering down the soul of wheeler dealers. So instead, he made the hardest decision of his career, and walked away. The video spread like wildfire. Fans were shocked, but overwhelmingly supportive. In the comments, they praised Edd's integrity and called him a hero for standing his ground. The message was clear: authenticity mattered more than ratings. But in the shadows of that applause, something darker began to grow. Rumors started swirling. Fingers were pointed. Accusations began to fly. And the blame game was about to take a disturbing, personal turn. The accusations that nearly destroyed Mike Brewer. As the internet rallied around Edd, a second narrative took hold, one that painted Mike Brewer as the villain of the story. In the eyes of some fans, someone had to be responsible. And Mike was the most visible target left standing. The accusations ranged from subtle to severe. He must have known. He didn't stop it. He let Edd take the fall. Some even went further, claiming Mike had been lobbying for more control behind the scenes, quietly pushing Edd out to appease the network and align with the new vision. The idea spread like wildfire in online forums and comment sections, fueled by speculation and emotion. Mike denied it all. Publicly, he supported Edd's decision, praised his talent, and wished him the best. Privately, however, he was under siege. The backlash wasn't just digital, it became terrifyingly real. In a heartbreaking interview, Mike revealed that he and his family were being harassed online. His daughter was threatened. His wife was terrified. And eventually, law enforcement had to step in to protect them from what had become a full-blown hate campaign. "I had to call the police," Mike said, his voice cracking. "Someone said they were going to kill me." It was a shocking twist. The fallout from Edd's departure had mutated into something dangerous. What began as a creative dispute had now drawn blood. And Mike Brewer, whether guilty or not, was caught in the crossfire. Crossfire. His reputation was battered, his safety was at risk, and the scars, both personal and professional, would linger to this day. There's no evidence that Mike orchestrated Edd's exit, but the court of public opinion had already spoken. The damage was done. And while Edd stayed silent on the matter, never publicly addressing the attacks or defending Mike, it was the dealer, not the mechanic, who stood alone in the storm. Even so, the show didn't stop. Wheeler Dealers was still a global brand, and it needed a new mechanic, fast. But who could possibly fill Edd China's shoes? Can you replace a legend? Enter Ant Anstead. Handsome, charismatic, and mechanically gifted, Ant seemed like the perfect candidate to fill Edd China's massive shoes. A former police officer turned car builder, he had real-world experience both under the hood and in front of the camera, a rare combination that producers hoped would win over skeptical fans. The chemistry with Mike was good. The projects were solid. The episodes flowed. Edd brought charm, efficiency, and a fresh dynamic to the screen. For a time, it looked like the show might actually survive the transition. Ratings held steady, and the format stayed intact, at least on the surface. But fans never stopped comparing. Where Edd had been calm and methodical, Ant was fast, energetic, and always camera-ready. Where Edd taught and entertained. Some viewers loved the new pace and polished visuals. Others felt something was missing, that quiet, thoughtful approach that had once made Wheeler Dealers feel like a DIY garage you could learn from. To them, it was becoming more of a show about cars rather than a show for car lovers. By 2020, Ant stepped away. No big controversy. No fiery exit. Just another change in the show's evolution. Then came Mark Elvis Priestley, knowledgeable, passionate, and easy to root for. With his race team background and infectious enthusiasm, Elvis brought credibility and warmth to the workbench. Yet even with his genuine skills and good-natured vibe, the same critiques lingered. The mechanics were capable. The cars were great. But fans kept asking, where's the heart? The real question wasn't whether these new hosts were good at what they did, it was whether Wheeler Dealers could ever recover the soul it lost when Edd China walked out of that garage. And while the show searched for its identity, trying to strike the same lightning twice, Edd was quietly rebuilding his own world away from the cameras, but far from forgotten. Edd China rebuilds, but this time on his terms. In 2021, Edd China returned, not to television, but to YouTube, where he could control every frame. No producers. No time limits. No corporate interference. Just Edd, a camera, and the raw magic of real engineering. He launched Workshop Diaries, a series that stripped everything back to basics. It was Edd's world on his terms. No network mandates. No flashy edits. No scripted drama. Each episode was a deep dive into authentic repairs, experimental builds, and thoughtful explanations. From electric conversions to gearbox rebuilds, it was in every sense the spirit of Wheeler Dealers restored. Edd worked on everything from vintage Land Rovers to futuristic prototypes. He didn't just show viewers what he was doing, he explained why, breaking down the logic behind every step. The tone was quiet, personal, and deeply satisfying. And fans, starved of that old-school Edd China magic, showed up in droves. The comment sections flooded with praise. Longtime viewers said it felt like coming home. The views climbed. The subscribers rolled in. And most importantly, Edd seemed genuinely happy, back in a space where passion and precision led the way, not deadlines and drama. He even revisited iconic vehicles from Wheeler Dealers, cars that never got the full spotlight they deserved. On his own channel, he could finally give those builds the love and attention they'd missed. And without commercial breaks or editorial cuts, Edd told the complete story the way it was meant to be told. Meanwhile, Mike Brewer was still holding down the fort on television, keeping the brand alive with new faces and fresh builds. But as Workshop Diaries gained momentum, a question started echoing across the fan base, one louder and more persistent with every passing upload: what would happen if Mike and Edd ever crossed paths again? Would it be a reunion or a reckoning? Two roads, one legacy, and a reunion fans still dream of. Years have passed. Edd and Mike have moved on, at least professionally. But for the fans who followed every engine rebuild, every gearbox fix, every banner-filled moment, the story doesn't feel finished. Not really. Mike Brewer still headlines Wheeler Dealers. Adapting to changing times and rotating co-hosts, he's kept the brand alive through shifting markets, evolving formats, and the ever-changing demands of modern television. He's become the face of resilience, always smiling, always moving forward, always finding the next deal. The show may look different, but its engine still runs strong. Edd, meanwhile, has doubled down on integrity. His YouTube channel Workshop Diaries thrives on passion over profit. He doesn't chase trends or tailor content to please advertisers. He builds what he wants, explains what matters, and inspires a generation of gearheads who value authenticity above all else. His audience may be smaller, but they're fiercely loyal, and they trust him. To this day, neither man has publicly addressed the other in depth. No joint interviews, no heartfelt posts, no dramatic reunions. Just a long, complicated silence. One that fans continue to read between, a silence filled with possibility and unspoken history. And yet the community keeps asking, could it ever happen? Could they team up one more time for a restoration, a one-off special, or even just a sit-down conversation about what really happened behind the scenes? Because Wheeler Dealers was never just about cars. It was about two men with different minds and the same heart. It was about passion, trust, and the joy of fixing what's broken, not just under the hood, but between people too. And maybe, just maybe, the garage door isn't closed for good. Maybe it's just waiting to be opened one last time. So what do you think? Was Edd China's departure the moment Wheeler Dealers lost its magic? Or did it simply evolve into something new? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you love this deep dive into one of TV's most talked about splits, hit that like button, subscribe,